Welcome everyone, welcome to Soteriology in the Reformation. And what we're going to be looking at through this week is, well, some of you working in a Roman Catholic majority context will know this. What we're looking at today is seen as divisive in some circles, as petty theological differences in other circles. So I think, for example, on October the 31st, Reformation Day because that's the day when Luther nailed up his 95 Theses in 1517 to the castle church door in Wittenberg. On Reformation Day 2016, Pope Francis announced that Protestants and Catholics, he said, now have the opportunity to mend a critical moment of our history by moving beyond the controversies and disagreements that have often prevented us from understanding one another. And I think phrased like that, it sounds a bit like the Reformation was a slightly unfortunate, maybe slightly unnecessary squabble over trifles, an outburst we can put behind us. And that is a very popular move today for a lot of people. What I hope we'll get to see is that reading just doesn't fit with the experience of the reformers who went through this. I think of Martin Luther, who felt such joy and liberation at this news that he discovered in Scripture. He said, I felt I was altogether born again and had entered paradise itself through open gates. Think of William Tyndale, who called it such merry, glad, joyful tidings. It made me sing and dance and leap for joy. Thomas Bilney, who was martyred for this, said it gave him a marvelous comfort and quietness, insomuch as my bruised bones leaped for joy. And it's this news of joy, of pastoral comfort, that we're going to dig into over this week. And I hope you can see, I hope you've all got access to the Union Cloud module page. You're going to be needing it in every part of this week. And you can see there on the course outline the topics we're going to be covering. So roughly what we're going to do to start with is we're going to be looking at Luther's theological method to start with. That's what we're going to kick off with, just to see how's he getting there. So we're going to be looking at his theology of the cross, his early years of theological development, how he's inching towards a Reformation discovery, and how complicated and winding a road that was. Then, once we've done that, we're going to dive in to look and concentrate specifically on the matter of the Reformation, the doctrine of justification, and look at what Luther's understanding of justification was. And then we're never really quite going to leave that, but we're going to branch off from justification to look at how a reordered understanding of justification meant a reordering of the understanding of a number of other key doctrines. It meant re-understanding what sin is, reconfiguring what grace means, what faith means. We'll be looking at the person and work of Christ, at what union with Christ means, and we're going to be finishing off in the last section of the module. Dr. Hames is going to be with you, looking particularly at the glory of God and why that is so key. And I want you to know that being at MTH level, this is not really going to be a spoon-feeding exercise. This is going to be us digging into primary texts together to see it. So it's not just take my word for it. I'll try to set you up so you can understand some primary texts, but then we're going to look at them together and you can see and judge for yourselves and see some of the complexities for yourselves. And I don't have to tell you, you'll just see it. And so this is going to be a text-based module. And in our examinations of the texts, in discussion times together, whether here or in learning communities, I mean it to be highly interactive as we're engaging with the texts. And I'm going to welcome some rabbit trails. I want to think about what does this mean pastorally? What are the fallout implications of this? And so please don't feel nervous about asking a question that might be a rabbit trail. I welcome them. So it's my job to keep us on track. That's not your job at all. I won't do a very good job at keeping us on track, but I'll have a crack at it. And but I like the rabbit trails where you say, what does that mean for this, whether it's an application or some other bit of theology, because often those can help us just dig in a little bit deeper and get tighter in our understanding and get to see pastoral connections more clearly. So feel really free to either ask what may even seem like the stupid question. Ask the stupid question, please don't let that hang. Or to ask a question that may seem offbeat. That's absolutely fine. It'll be my job to try to chair it a bit, so I'll look after that. You just ask the questions and make the comments, make the observations. But it's primarily going to be a text-based module. And we're going to be looking at these topics through the lens of theologians like Luther and Calvin and Tyndale and some of the Puritans. And that means we get primary engagement with the fights as they're going on to give you a sense of the complexity of what's happening so that you're not just dependent on what scholars say is happening, which does happen. And maybe we'll hit a little bit this week that there are contemporary scholarly trends. And if you read a lot of the contemporary books, they will tend to have a particular trend leading you in a particular direction. We can look at the primary text and say, what do you think? Do you agree with that trend or not? Here's the evidence we're all working on. But also, what I want to do by engaging with the primary texts, I want to introduce you more deeply to some theologians who can be friends for ministry longer term. So to remove some of the fear factor for you, to say, I've engaged with these primary texts, I've read quite a bit of Luther and Calvin et al., and I'm not scared of doing that because I've already done it. Because one of the things I would love for you is, whatever your ministry is going to be longer term, I want you to be ongoingly studying, not stopping here, because it is so easy in the busyness of ministry, many of you will know already, just to let yourself run dry, preach yourself dry, pastor yourself dry, and find you're not actually getting any input. And what I would love is to put some of these theologians, maybe not all of them, but some of them, as friends alongside you who can be ministering to you over the years, who you can turn to as a bit of refreshment on study breaks regularly. You can turn to regularly on an afternoon where you need a bit of input for yourself that isn't directly going to go into the next sermon, but will feed you and build you up